Let me tell you something most people won't say out loud. The moment a woman chooses self-respect, the world around her shifts. Not because she got louder, not because she argued more, but because she finally decided her value is non-negotiable. See, a woman who doesn't respect herself will tolerate anything: late replies, broken promises, half love, excuses dressed up as effort. But the day she looks in the mirror and says, "I deserve better than this," everything changes, because here's the truth. People don't treat you the way you ask to be treated. They treat you the way you allow. When a woman chooses self-respect, she stops chasing. She stops explaining. She stops begging someone to see her worth. Self-respect is not something the world gives to a woman. It is something she decides for herself. The moment she makes that decision, everything around her begins to change. People often believe respect comes from explaining, requesting, or proving worth again and again. But in reality, the world does not respond to words as much as it responds to standards. People don't treat you how you ask. They treat you how you allow. When a woman allows disrespect, inconsistency, or neglect, it silently teaches others that this behavior is acceptable. But when she chooses self-respect, she resets the rules without saying a single word. Many women are taught to be patient, understanding, and forgiving at the cost of their own dignity. They are encouraged to adjust, to tolerate, and to keep the peace, even when it breaks them internally. Over time, this creates a dangerous pattern where their needs come last, their feelings are minimized, and their boundaries are crossed repeatedly. The world notices this, not because people are evil, but because human beings naturally test limits. When there are no limits, disrespect walks in freely and makes itself comfortable. Choosing self-respect means recognizing that love, attention, and effort should not be begged for. It means understanding that being kind does not require being silent, and being patient does not mean accepting pain. When a woman respects herself, she stops negotiating her worth. She no longer explains why she deserves honesty, consistency, or care. Her energy shifts, and so does the way people respond to her. Suddenly, what was once taken for granted is no longer accessible. This change can feel uncomfortable at first, especially for those who benefited from her lack of boundaries. When she stops overgiving, stops fixing, and stops accepting excuses, some people will accuse her of changing. They may say she has become difficult, cold, or selfish. But what they really mean is that she is no longer convenient. Self-respect often looks like distance to those who never respected you in the first place. As her standards rise, her tolerance for mistreatment drops. She no longer stays in conversations that drain her, relationships that confuse her, or environments that diminish her. She learns that walking away is not weakness, but wisdom. This is where the reset happens. The world adjusts because it has to. People either step up or step out, and both outcomes are a win. When a woman chooses self-respect, she stops reacting emotionally to disrespect and starts responding intentionally. She understands that silence can be a boundary and distance can be an answer. She does not chase clarity from people who thrive on confusion. She trusts herself enough to leave situations that do not align with her values. This self-trust becomes visible. It shows in how she speaks, how she carries herself, and how she makes decisions. The most powerful part of self-respect is that it does not require validation. A woman no longer needs others to agree with her standards for them to be real. She becomes comfortable being misunderstood rather than disrespected. This inner alignment creates confidence, and confidence commands respect without force. People sense when someone knows their worth. They may not always like it, but they respond to it. Over time, the quality of her relationships improves. She attracts people who communicate clearly, respect her time, and value her presence. This is not luck, it is alignment. When she stops accepting less, less stops finding its way to her. The world mirrors her self-perception back to her. When she treats herself as valuable, others follow suit. Self-respect is not about perfection or pride. It is about honesty with oneself. It is about acknowledging what hurts, what feels wrong, and what no longer serves growth. It is about choosing long-term peace over short-term comfort. Once a woman makes this choice, there is no going back to the version of herself who accepted crumbs while offering a full heart self-respect marks the moment a woman stops running after what should already be meeting her halfway. Chasing, begging, and tolerating disrespect often begin quietly. It starts with unanswered messages, delayed efforts, broken promises, and small dismissals that are easy to excuse. At first, she tells herself to be patient, to be understanding, to give more time, but over time, that patience turns into self-abandonment. When a woman does not value herself fully, she will keep trying to convince others to see her worth. When she chooses self-respect, that pattern ends. A woman who values herself understands that love is not something to be chased. Attention that must be begged for is not affection, it is control. She realizes that constantly explaining her feelings to someone who refuses to listen is not communication, it is emotional exhaustion. Self-respect brings clarity. It helps her see that if someone truly cared, she would not need to over-explain why she deserves basic respect. Effort would be natural, not forced. Presence would be consistent, not conditional. Begging drains the spirit. It slowly erodes confidence and replaces it with doubt. A woman begins to question her tone, her needs, her expectations. She wonders if she is asking for too much, when in reality she is asking the wrong person. Self-respect shifts this internal conversation. Instead of asking, "How can I make them stay?" she begins asking, "Why am I staying where I am not valued?" That question alone is powerful enough to change her life. When a woman stops explaining her worth, she also stops tolerating behavior that dishonors her. Disrespect no longer feels normal or familiar. It feels heavy, uncomfortable, and unacceptable. She no longer laughs off insults disguised as jokes or ignores patterns of neglect. She understands that love without respect is not love at all. It is attachment mixed with fear, and self-respect refuses to coexist with fear. Walking away is not easy, especially when emotions are involved. It takes strength to leave what is familiar, even when it is painful. But a self-respecting woman understands that staying in a place where she is constantly diminished costs her more than leaving ever could. She chooses temporary loneliness over permanent disrespect. She chooses her peace over proving her value to someone who never intended to see it. As she stops chasing, something remarkable happens. Her energy returns. The anxiety fades. She no longer wakes up wondering if today will be the day she is chosen, heard, or appreciated. She chooses herself first. This does not make her cold or heartless. It makes her grounded. She still loves deeply, but she no longer pours into people who leave her empty. People notice the shift. Those who were comfortable doing the bare minimum feel the distance immediately. Some will try to pull her back with words instead of actions. Others will disappear when they realize manipulation no longer works. Self-respect reveals intentions clearly. It removes confusion and replaces it with truth. And truth, while sometimes painful, is always freeing. A woman who values herself does not need dramatic exits or loud confrontations. Her absence is enough. Walking away becomes her statement. It says, "I know what I deserve, and this is not it." This quiet strength is often misunderstood, but it is unshakable. She no longer argues with someone's lack of effort. She accepts it as an answer and responds by leaving. Over time, she becomes more selective with her energy. She invests in connections that feel mutual, safe, and respectful. She understands that her time and emotions are valuable, not unlimited. Self-respect teaches her that not every loss is a failure. Some losses are protection. Some goodbyes are self-love in action. Boundaries have a way of revealing truth that words never could. When a woman begins to set boundaries, she is not changing who she is simply protecting who she has always been. For a long time, her silence may have been mistaken for acceptance. Her patience may have been used as permission. Her kindness may have been taken as weakness. The moment she draws a line and says, even quietly, "This is no longer okay," the masks begin to fall. Those who benefited from her silence feel the shift immediately. They were comfortable when she overgave, overexplained, and overextended herself. They liked her when she absorbed disappointment without complaint and forgave without accountability. Her lack of boundaries made life easy for them. So when she starts saying no, when she stops responding the same way, when she refuses to tolerate certain behaviors, it disrupts their comfort. What once felt normal to them now feels threatening. This discomfort often shows itself as resistance. They may question her intentions or accuse her of changing. Some will say she has become difficult, distant, or selfish. But boundaries do not create selfishness. They reveal entitlement. When someone reacts negatively to a healthy boundary, it is often because that boundary blocks their access to what they were taking freely. Her growth becomes inconvenient to those who were benefiting from her self-neglect. Setting boundaries also removes confusion. It becomes clear who respected her and who simply enjoyed her availability. The wrong people struggle with accountability. They prefer situations where expectations are low and consequences are non-existent. Boundaries force them to either adjust their behavior or walk away. Many choose to leave, not because the boundary is unreasonable, but because they were never willing to meet it. At the same time, something equally powerful happens. The right people rise. Genuine individuals do not feel threatened by boundaries, they feel guided by them. They understand that boundaries create safety, clarity, and mutual respect. Instead of pushing against her limits, they ep up. They listen more carefully. They communicate more honestly. They show effort without being asked. For them, boundaries are not walls, they are instructions on how to love her well. A woman with boundaries no longer has to guess where she stands with people. Actions become clearer. Effort becomes consistent. The emotional push and pull fades away. This brings peace. Relationships stop feeling like battles and start feeling like partnerships. She no longer feels drained by every interaction because she is no longer giving beyond her capacity. Boundaries also strengthen her self-trust. Every time she honors her limits, she sends herself a message that her feelings matter. This inner alignment makes her more confident and calm. She is no longer afraid of losing people by being honest. She understands that anyone who leaves because of her boundaries was never meant to stay in her life long term. What remains is lighter, healthier, and real. There is a deep sense of relief that comes with this shift. She no longer carries the burden of maintaining relationships alone. She is no longer responsible for fixing, saving, or enduring. Boundaries redistribute responsibility. They remind others that respect is not optional. This does not guarantee that everyone will treat her perfectly, but it ensures she will no longer tolerate being treated poorly. Over time, her world becomes smaller but stronger. Fewer people have access to her energy, but those who do value it deeply. Conversations become more meaningful. Connections become more balanced. Love feels less chaotic and more secure. This is the quiet reward of boundaries. Self-respect has a quiet power to it. It does not announce itself loudly or demand attention, yet it transforms a woman from the inside out. When a woman truly respects herself, the constant noise in her mind begins to fade. The overthinking, the self-doubt, the emotional chaos created by inconsistency and unmet expectations slowly disappear. In their place comes peace, not the kind of peace that depends on others behaving a certain way, but the kind that comes from knowing she will always protect her own dignity. This peace changes how she moves through the world. She is no longer reactive. Situations that once triggered anxiety or insecurity no longer have the same grip on her. She does not feel the need to chase validation or prove her worth. Her calm is not weakness, it is strength under control. When someone tries to disturb her peace with disrespect or confusion, she recognizes it quickly and removes herself without drama. Peace becomes her priority, not an afterthought. With peace comes power. This power is not about control over others, but mastery over herself. She understands her emotions instead of being ruled by them. She can feel deeply without losing herself. She can love without lowering her standards. This self-control gives her an unshakable confidence. She knows who she is, what she brings, and what she will no longer tolerate. That certainty becomes her armor. Her confidence is not loud or performative. It shows in her posture, her voice, and her decisions. She does not rush to explain herself or defend her choices. She trusts them. She understands that not everyone needs to understand her journey. This confidence makes her untouchable in ways that matter. Criticism loses its sting. Rejection loses its power. She is no longer fragile because her worth is no longer in someone else's hands. Clarity is the final gift of self-respect. She sees people and situations for what they are, not for what she hopes they could be. She no longer romanticizes potential or ignores red flags. She understands that consistency is more important than promises, and actions speak louder than words. This clarity saves her time, energy, and heartache. It allows her to make decisions rooted in truth rather than emotion. Being untouchable does not mean being closed off or cold. It means being selective. She still desires connection, companionship, and love, but she refuses to accept relationships that require her to shrink, settle, or suffer in silence. She does not need to isolate herself to feel strong. She simply refuses to stay where she is undervalued. Her standards are not walls, they are filters. Because she refuses less than she deserves, she no longer fears being alone. Loneliness no longer scares her into accepting crumbs. She understands that her own company is better than being in a space where she feels unseen or disrespected. This freedom is powerful. It allows her to choose people from a place of wholeness, not need. Her life becomes simpler. Decisions that once took endless emotional energy now come easily. If it brings peace, it stays. If it brings confusion or disrespect, it goes. This clarity creates balance. She invests her energy where it is reciprocated and withdraws it where it is wasted. Over time, this becomes her natural way of living. In the end, everything comes back to one decision: choosing yourself. When a woman chooses self-respect, she stops chasing what dishonors her. She sets boundaries that reveal truth, and she creates a life built on peace, power, and clarity. She no longer begs to be valued because she already knows her worth. She no longer tolerates confusion because she chooses calm. And she no longer fears walking away because she understands that losing disrespect is never a loss. Self-respect is not about pushing people away. It is about inviting the right energy in. It is about standing so firmly in your value that anything misaligned simply falls away. And when that happens, everything changes. The way you love, the way you were treated, and the way you see yourself. If this message spoke to you, if it felt personal, or if you're on this journey right now, comment below and share one thing you're choosing to no longer tolerate. Your words might be the reminder another woman needs today.